Welcome to Behind the Model, a show diving into the virtual world and exploring its stories with the VTubers who lead the way. VTubing exists because of its artists. There's so many different mediums for creative expression in VTubing, but all of it revolves around humans drawing concepts and bringing them to life, whether as models, illustrations, or otherwise. Synical has basically done it all. Self-trained in secrecy, they are now one of the most popular VTuber artists in the community and are flourishing with plenty of behind-the-scenes support. Synical, welcome to Behind the Model.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I've enjoyed your art for quite some time being in the VTuber community now. I've seen all the YCH commissions that you've been doing and all the various other work that you've been doing. So I'm very eager to get into your backstory here, which kind of leads me into my first question here. I mentioned in the intro, self-trained in secrecy. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got interested in art?
Yes, absolutely. Ever since I was young, I've always wanted to do art. It has been a passion of mine. It has always been some kind of form of creative outlet for me and my feelings. And when I was young, I went through a lot, so art was very important for me to be able to vent my feelings. I drew in secrecy, as Ducky earlier said. I was not allowed to draw at home or at school because at school it was seen as a distraction from the academics, and at home it was because it was a distraction for the academics because I wasn't doing my homework. I was doing art. So I always drew in secrecy. Every single time my parents weren't around, my teachers weren't looking, at every moment during recess and lunch and dinner, even sometimes staying up late at night, I would turn on my flashlight, open up my notebook, and I would just start drawing. And it has evolved over time. Like, after a couple years, I learned how to sketch really quickly, sometimes even color, and then quickly, like, adeptly close my notebook and, like, shove it under the desk or the bed or wherever I was so that I was not seen doing art. I guess that would be the reason why a lot of people, when they see me draw on stream, they're kind of amazed at my speed, and they go, "Whoa, how do you do that?" I'm like, it's a lot of practice.
It is a lot of practice, but it's a lot of practice under pressure.
Yes, absolutely. I did not want to let any of that kind of pressure stop me from doing art. Almost every single person that I knew told me to focus on my studies, and yes, I did, but at any moment I was ever seen taking a breather and doing art for myself, it was just not looked up upon. So I always drew art in secret, even though it was heavily discouraged by literally everybody else around me. And honestly, if I didn't keep doing that, I wouldn't be able to do the things I do today.
What was it like having like this very big hobby of yours kind of have to keep it under wraps? And I guess how do you kind of navigate that at a younger age when it is something that you're so passionate about but you can't really share with the people you love?
Yeah, it was very difficult for me. I grew up as an only Asian daughter in a conservative household, so a lot of expectations were put on my shoulders, and I didn't want my family to worry about me. So anytime I wanted to draw, I always tried to do it in secret so they didn't think I was trying to flunk any of my courses. I did share my passion with my friends at school. Of course, they didn't snitch on me, but it was hard. It was really difficult. It wasn't later on in life that when I actually asked my parents for an art tablet, did they go, "What? You've been doing art all this time?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I showed them my pieces of art that I had stashed underneath my bed and in whatever notebooks they could find. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, you were doing this in secret."
So they never found any of your notebooks?
No, none.
Wow.
Not until I showed it. Yeah, I kept it really under wraps, and the ones that they did see, like my diary had a lock on it. I had like a password lock on my diary. And they were so stunned, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, we've been stopping you from doing art all this time, and it has improved so much. Imagine what could happen if we actually supported you and what you did." So they gave me an art tablet, and now here I am.
So they actually, like, the perception that you had of art, you know, being outlawed in the home and at school, they actually came around and being quite supportive of it.
I believe that they became supportive of it once they realized that I have been making money off of doing art.
Ah, yeah.
You know, it's always that business mindset. I can't blame them. I understand where they come from as an adult, and sure, when I was younger, I didn't really get it because why do you have to put a price on everything that you do? But in reality, unfortunately, money is what makes the world go round, and if I cannot support my passions, then I would not be able to work on my passions.
Mm.
In all honesty, that amount of pressure that they put on me, in a way, I do have to thank them for it, because if not for the amount of focus that they pushed me to have on my academics while I kept my passion under wraps, I probably wouldn't have been able to progress as fast as I wanted to in my art. I probably wouldn't have been able to get a job at a relatively young age and be able to have the money to support my passions.
Is that just because you would have gotten a little bit complacent and been like, okay, I've got the backing and support now, I can take it easier, versus really wanting to improve to almost prove a point?
I would say that I did try to improve just to prove a point. I knew from a young age, because I was well into the DeviantArt community, because that was the only place where I could post my art and grow as an artist and look at other references and talk to other artists that I knew. So, I knew from a young age that, oh, people can make merchandising with said art. They could go on cups, they could go on shirts, they could go in a numerous amount of places, and I wanted to be able to prove to my family that art is, in fact, a very, while passionate, a very useful trade to have. So now I like make my own merch. Like, I designed my own hoodie, I've designed characters for companies, I have designed this character that you see here. I didn't make the model, but I did design myself. I've helped countless of other people find their designs that really spoke to them, and now they're using it to become VTubers as well. It's very fulfilling. And not only is it fulfilling, but at least in my family's eyes, it's profitable.
Ah, yes.
So, yeah.
Because you didn't go the traditional route, so you have to be able to justify the business case somehow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It has that pressure to perform when you were younger impacted how you approach art and how you see things nowadays in the long term? Like, does it change maybe your mindset a little bit?
I would say that it has. As I said, only Asian child. I'm a daughter, so a lot of pressure was put on me. And not only that, I grew up in Hong Kong, so the environment there was exceptionally competitive. You had to be an all-rounder to be able to stay afloat. And so my family put me through a lot of music courses, a lot of sport teams, and in a way that has shaped me into a very competitive person. I am exceptionally hardworking. When I give myself a task, I always set like little goals for me to achieve one by one, but eventually they will all be achieved. I notice that if I set my mind to something, I always do it. I always follow through. Whether I do it well or not, that all depends. If I succeed, then that's great. If I don't stop. I take it in stride, I learn, I improve. I guess my family never really brought me up to be complacent with anything. I guess that would be one of the reasons why I continue to draw out of spite.
And I guess, like, for you, was art the only outlet that you had growing up as, like, for, I guess, a bit of, I wouldn't say a rebellious streak, but, you know, being able to express yourself creatively or find fulfillment in other places or even enjoyment in other places?
Well, I will say that art was one of the main ones. There were other outlets. I am an avid D&D DM and GM.
Okay.
I wrote a lot of stories that helped me through and helped me put my feelings and growing pains into perspective so I could understand them much better. I can sing, so I used to vent all my feelings out in song, of course in the shower. Sometimes when I am watching a Disney movie and I wanted to sing along to all the princess songs, that was me. I was that kind of person. I guess another thing would be that I did sports. I vented with sports. I always felt somehow much calmer and more focused whenever I finished a round of badminton or I finished swimming. I also used to dance competitively, so I expressed myself through movement as well.
Mm.
There's a lot of pressure on me as a kid, so I had to have a lot of outlets.
Yeah. And you mentioned you were able to turn art into a career now. That's what you do. When did you have that realization that it could be your long-term future?
I would say relatively young because as I mentioned before, when I was a kid, I went through a lot of tough stuff and while one of the venting outlets was art, I watched a lot of YouTubers. And even like just for a moment, I was able to smile or giggle while watching their videos. It made my day. And once I realized that storytime YouTubers were a thing, and
Mm.
I saw them draw and tell stories with their art, I was elated. I was like, yeah, I'm totally gonna do that in the future. Obviously, I'm not doing that now. I think I will when I feel that my art is up to par. But yeah, I've always wanted to be some kind of art entertainer when I grew up.
And I guess then that leads perfectly into VTubing because that's kind of a mix of both. So the follow-up question to that is what drew you to this space in particular?
Well, VTubing was somewhat of a new thing when I first realized that it was a thing in the first place. I saw VTubing as a perfect medium for me because, while I am a Asian dragon turned jackalope girl with the horns and the bunny ears and the bunny tail or whatnot, I like my creative outlets. I like adding fantasy onto my design and in my lore, but I really just use VTubing as a means to keep my anonymity on the internet. I saw VTubing as a way where you can keep your private life to your private life, and you could just be as expressive as you normally are, like this.
Oh,
There's no way
of
that I
course
wouldn't
you
be
have
able
a
to do
dab
that.
animation.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course I do. It's how I express myself. That's why I love VTubing so much. I can keep myself secret. I can keep myself as open or as comfortable as I want to be, and I can still be as expressive as I am.
And I guess that kind of runs parallel to the circumstances in which you grew up, where like you had the prim and proper growing up, and this is almost like the phase where you can finally have that self-expression and have that self-discovery and journey.
Yes, absolutely. I was not allowed to watch many cartoons or play many video games because they weren't feminine. That's the reason why I have a crap ton of Nat Geo Wild knowledge because I only ever watched Nat Geo Wild. So I never really actually explored many anime, many video games that were important to internet culture until much later, until I moved out. And now it's like I'm rediscovering new things about myself.
Does that change how you interact with the community, which is, like, not to generalize the wider VTuber community, but it is trending younger and trending towards individuals who have been online for a very long time?
Well, I would say that, like, I guess I would classify myself as a young boomer. I don't consider myself old by any means, but I do think that I am quite out of touch with a lot of culture that has been growing on the internet for a while. And sure, sometimes it does feel like I'm a bit out of place when people start talking about video games that they grew up with, but it allows me to relive something that they did such a long time ago, and I'll be able to have people to hold my hand through it all and show me all the ins and outs. Like right now I have a series where I haven't really thought of an official name for this. I think I'm gonna call it Virgin Gamer. A
Okay.
Virgin Gamer series where I play games that I have never played but everybody else has played before, like Resident Evil and Halo and Left 4 Dead 2, and everybody who has not played those games gets to live vicariously through me, and people who have played those games get to watch and relive the experience of seeing something like as important as those games and those types of cultures for the very first time.
You might need to invite me onto that because I have played none of those three games either.
All right, I'll be happy to hold your hand through any of those games.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you need a companion, I'm right there. I've never played, haven't played Resident Evil, never played Halo, never played Left 4 Dead 2. There you go. We're both I guess young boomers, we could call it that.
Yeah, I guess. I'll be happy to play games with you anytime.
Ah, beautiful. I want to talk a little bit about the support that you have nowadays because off camera, before we were preparing for this, you spoke very positively about your husband and all the support that they've been able to provide. Would you be able to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. When I moved to the States, my husband was there for me. I was in a lot of emotional turmoil. I was basically aimless because I was torn with my passion and wanting to be able to earn money to support said passion. And I felt like it was getting too much for me to handle. I felt like my time was already up because I saw so many people getting into the VTubing career. And now, like, you look everywhere, there's so many VTubers, it's so saturated. I had no idea if what I wanted to do was ever going to be successful. VTubing is a very expensive hobby, at the very least, and a very big investment on the other side because, you know, models nowadays, they cost like 2,000 for art and rigging and all. I'm not even going to get into how many assets you need and how much they all cost because it's very pricey.
Mm.
But my husband was able to hold my hand through it all, reassure me, even brainstorm with me on a couple of my projects. He's actually my co-DM for my current Pokemon D&D campaign that I'm running with him. And he helped me through a lot. And he currently helps me now. He supports me emotionally and financially, allowing me to be able to break into the job that I'm most passionate about, which is being a content creator and making people smile. I am very grateful for his help, and without him, I probably wouldn't even be here doing any kind of content creation or art.
Mm. Now that art is your career, your life, how you make your living, has that changed how you approach it and how you see it?
I would say, in a way, yes, because I never feel like I'm working a single day in my life doing my job right now. I love doing art all the time. It's exceptionally fulfilling, and I love watching myself improve with every piece I do. But it does change in the fact that sometimes I look at something and I go, "Oh, this could be profitable. Oh, this could help with the bills." And I have to be very innovative and creative nowadays. Like what you mentioned before in our pre-recording session, my YCHs, they've become pretty popular in recent days. I think that I'd like to say that was a really good business endeavor of mine because I noticed that sometimes there's a lack of people asking for personal commissions because not many people know what kind of pose they want, what kind of backdrop they want, what kind of expression, and they get confused and they don't end up ordering a commission at all. In this case, I give them a small preview of what it could look like, and a lot of people seem to like that nowadays.
Mm. And I guess you mentioned it earlier, like the cost of entry to VTubing is quite expensive nowadays. Like it can run up to thousands of dollars a model. And while a lot of people do profess that, like, you know, you can do it for cheap, you can do it for free even and do all of that. Do you think you've seen like a change in the VTubing space as it's become more popular and then art, obviously demand goes up and so prices go up? How people kind of treat artists or approach art in the VTubing space?
I will say that there are a ton of artists that are important in the VTubing community. Without them, we wouldn't be here. The models and riggers normally get the most amount of credit because, you know, they made the model move and come to life in such a manner. But I feel that a lot of other artists are being taken for granted, such as character designers and video editors and clippers, all of which is considered an art form. I would think that editing videos is an art form. Lore writing. Those small little things I feel that people should not take for granted in this community. I say as a visual artist, and sure, I'm given credit, but it does pain me a little bit when I don't see other people credit their video editors or their background music artists. They're artists too, in my eyes, and they should be given the same amount of respect and praise as model artists and riggers.
Dude, does it almost stun you how diverse the art market is now in VTubing, especially when you look back to the early days of the internet where on the DeviantArt days it was usually just character sketches and maybe a little bit of literature. And now it is
Yeah.
so broad, and VTubing in itself makes it even broader because of everything is art at the end of the day. The models drawn are art, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I found that VTubing has opened a market for so many things. Like music, background music designers. A lot of people that are VTubers tend to want to make lore videos, and granted, I personally find this kind of music is very difficult. Lore video background music where it's it basically flows with the script. It's like a movie with a backing soundtrack to match the feel of the scene. It's so important, but it seems so small, almost like it can be overlooked. But it's so important in the VTubing community. It has opened so many jobs in this field. I find it quite amazing, actually.
I mean, that kind of growth is self-fulfilling as well. Like, it would then support artists who are already existing in the space, like yourself, right?
Yeah.
When we're looking at the future of VTubing and kind of all the different art forms that have popped up, where do you kind of see like the next evolutions going? I mean, if we're going to try and earmark some things, if 2022 is probably the year of the lore video, where a lot of lore videos and lore studios popped up like off the back of Merryweathery and all that, where do you see the art space growing?
I think that it would be really plausible and really cool if there was a I know this came out like a small while ago. There's this anime that's based off of online entertainment. I know it's specifically talking about VTubers because of their diverse character designs and their focus on algorithms and being able to entertain people on the internet. I think that it is totally possible for VTuber creators to get in full mocap green screen suits and do a real life show while presenting themselves as their model. Like the technology's not that far off. It has been done a couple of times before. Hell, there are even like Hatsune Miku hologram concerts. That is also something that I feel like it would be really cool to see, and it's not that far away.
Yeah, I mean, like, the one that immediately popped into my head was when Model EP did her first concert in full 3D
Yeah.
mocap, right?
Yeah. Would I just another thing that I thought of a long while ago, like wouldn't it be cool if there was like a VTuber a cappella group? I don't know, maybe it's because I was in an a cappella group and I'm like, damn, maybe I kind of want to do that a cappella stuff all over again. There's so many different things that could be changed and morphed into this VTubing community, and I feel like with the technology being able to support VTubing as it is, it's not that far away.
Is that kind of what keeps you going in VTubing and as an artist and a content creator? The fact that it's still a young space and ever evolving, and there's still so much that could be explored?
I would say so. It's one of the more interesting driving forces. However, I will have to say that the reason why I keep doing the things that I do is because, as I mentioned, when I was a kid, went through tough stuff. Things that made me smile were the content creators that I watched along the way, such as PewDiePie and Markiplier's earlier video content. They made me laugh. I kind of want to be that person for anybody who's going through a rough time. I tell my community this almost every single day. If I'm able to make you laugh after a hard day's work, then I've done my job.
Yeah. So it's less now like just I want to be an artist and draw for everyone, but it is like the broader aspect of content creation and being able to draw on all of your strengths that you acquired growing up, like through art and then maybe even your competitive streak a little bit and all the pressure, and being able to put that into practice as a content creator, as a streamer, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually had a couple of instances where people who are having a rough day do come into chat. They don't like trauma dump on me or anything by any means, but I understand it when somebody's having a bad time. So sometimes I would literally pause what I'm doing to make sure that person's okay and to let them know that my space is a safe space and I'm understanding of them. Because I don't want to say that I've been through the worst shit ever, but I have been through a lot, and I am empathetic towards people that have also gone through a lot. So,
It sounds like you're trying to almost like give like a support that you wish you had, or like that when you were growing
Yeah,
up, like you kind of would have really liked.
absolutely. I know that my family probably wouldn't have understood, and even now, sometimes they don't really understand where I came from when I was younger. But I know that they tried, but it wasn't sufficient enough for me. I want to be that kind of person that would be able to give support to somebody who's going through a rough time. Um, I hopefully, God forbid, nobody goes through what I went through. But if they did, or they're just having a bad day, I want to be able to provide that support and safety net so that at least, regardless of where you are in the world, at least there's one person that understands what you're going through
Mm,
and is telling you that things will be okay and things will get better.
yeah. Is that your ultimate goal through content creation? Is being able to just entertain and maybe not necessarily inspire, but at least bring joy to others?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me so happy whenever I see somebody in my chat find something that I did funny, and when they share clips, it's very fulfilling. And while I appreciate every single sub, donation, or throne gift that I get, the real amount of joy that I do feel is when somebody is entertained by my content, because that means, regardless of what they're going through, I've made them smile and laugh.
Mm,
And that means more than anything to some people.
mm. And I guess looking back now at the young Cynical who was drawing secretly in those art books stashed under your bed, did you ever imagine you would actually get to this point?
In all honesty, no. I honestly didn't think I'd ever be able to get here. I thought that my career in content creation and or art and or being able to uplift people the way that I do now, I thought it was a long and far shot. But now that I am able to grow and learn on my own and have the support of my husband to back me up, anything's possible.
Mm,
I'm quite stunned that I'm actually here today with a stunning live 2D model, more 3D models and other 2D models on their way, and a loving community that is able to support each other the way that I wish I could have been supported when I was younger. It's so fulfilling. It's a great feeling to have. And I hope I'm able to continue this for a long time.
mm. Is there anything that you would say to your younger self now, looking back?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess honestly, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you enjoy as long as it's not harming anybody. Keep your chin up. If anybody tells you that your dreams are unachievable, don't listen to them. There's always a way. I like to say that I worked hard to get me to this point, and granted, I did. I did work exceptionally hard. But fate does play a small part in things. Honestly, my philosophy is to just let life sometimes take the wheel. Whenever a door closes, another one opens somewhere. And fate will lead you towards it.
Mm. Well, Cynical, thank you so much for sharing your journey on Behind the Model. I hope there was a little bit of inspiration people can take out of your wonderful journey.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me once again. It's an honor to be able to share my story and give a little bit of a behind the scenes.
Synical is the latest guest on my new series, Behind the Model, diving into the stars who make VTubing the creative medium we love. If you're interested in more of Cynical's story, you can read the accompanying article linked in the description. You can also find all of Cynical's social media channels below. Until next time, thank you.